Welcome to a transformative journey through one of the most profound stories ever told, the complete narrative of the Bible. This isn't just a recount of historical events, it's an exploration of faith, resilience, hope, and redemption that has inspired and shaped civilizations for centuries. Imagine being transported back to the very beginning, to the point where all creation sprang forth, witnessing humanity's journey from paradise to the harshest trials and the most sacred promises. This story holds the keys to understanding the principles of faith, the trials of obedience, and the journey of redemption that resonates even in today's world. In this video, you'll uncover each significant chapter of the Bible's incredible journey. We'll delve deep into the stories that have anchored faith and hope, from the creation of the universe and humankind's fall, to the rise of kings, prophets, and the foundations of faith. Each segment will reveal timeless lessons and profound insights that resonate with the deepest parts of our humanity. If you're ready to see beyond the surface, to find meaning and inspiration, then stay with us until the end. Together, we'll walk through ancient lands, witness divine covenants, and understand the faith that has endured centuries. Whether you're familiar with these stories or exploring them for the first time, prepare to be captivated. Every word, every event in this journey holds a purpose. Our goal isn't just to tell you a story, it's to invite you to connect with these timeless truths that offer guidance and purpose in life. So, if you're ready, let's embark on this journey through time, from creation to revelation, and see how the narrative of the Bible continues to shape the world. Are you ready to unlock ancient wisdom and profound truths? Grab a notebook, settle in, and let's begin. The story of creation marks the beginning of all things. It takes us to a time before time, when the universe was a formless void, and darkness stretched infinitely. In this primal state, only God existed, timeless and without origin. With a command, "Let there be light," God separated light from darkness, marking the first day. Through His word alone, oceans and skies were formed, and the dry land appeared, teeming with plants, trees, and all kinds of vegetation. The vastness of the heavens was filled with stars, the sun to rule the day, and the moon to govern the night. In the span of 6 days, a lifeless expanse was transformed into a world brimming with life and beauty, a testament to the power of divine will and vision. After establishing the universe's physical order, God set His sights on creating life, filling the waters with fish, the skies with birds, and the land with animals of every kind. This wasn't mere creation, each being was crafted with care and purpose, meant to live in harmony within a balanced world. In this newly formed paradise, the ecosystems thrived, each organism supporting the others. The grand masterpiece, however, was still to come. Humanity was the culmination of God's creation, a being formed in His image, with the capacity to reason, to feel, and to make choices. This creation wasn't just about existence, it was about a relationship, a reflection of the Creator Himself. When God created man, He breathed life into Adam, the first human, and placed him in the Garden of Eden, a paradise filled with every tree and creature. The garden was a sanctuary, free from pain, suffering, and sin, where Adam walked with God. Yet, even in this perfect environment, there was one commandment: to avoid the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This single command was not just a test but a symbol of trust and obedience, setting the stage for humanity's capacity for free will. God saw that it was not good for man to be alone, and so, from Adam's side, He created Eve. Together, they embodied innocence and purity, living in perfect harmony with their Creator. In Eden, Adam and Eve enjoyed a life without shame or fear. Their relationship with God was direct and intimate, a closeness that defined their existence. The garden itself symbolized a pure, divine communion, where each creature had its place and purpose. Every morning brought new light, and each sunset painted the sky in colors that celebrated their union with God. It was a life of simplicity, of pure joy in being. But as the narrative unfolds, we see that this idyllic life would be tested by the very gift of choice that made them unique. Their free will was a powerful gift, but it came with profound responsibility. The arrival of the serpent, cunning and subtle, introduces the first shadow into this perfect world. By questioning God's command, the serpent planted doubt and curiosity within Eve's mind. Did God really say? Became the seed that would lead to the first act of disobedience. The serpent's temptation exploited humanity's capacity for curiosity and the desire to understand the unknown. Eve's hesitation turned to resolve as she reached for the forbidden fruit, marking a pivotal moment. In that single act, the innocence they held so dearly was forever altered, setting humanity on a path filled with both knowledge and consequence. As Adam and Eve ate the forbidden fruit, a wave of awareness flooded over them, revealing their nakedness, vulnerability, and shame. They hid from God, a gesture that represented the first separation from their Creator. In seeking knowledge, they gained a painful awareness of their flaws and limitations. The act of hiding reflects humanity's struggle with guilt and the desire to evade responsibility. God's voice calling out, "Where are you?" echoes through the ages as a question to humanity, asking us to reflect on our own state and choices. This separation, however, was not the end but rather the beginning of a journey filled with redemption and restoration. Expelled from Eden, Adam and Eve were thrust into a world vastly different from the paradise they had known. The ground became hard, life's simplicity was replaced with toil, and suffering became part of their existence. Yet, even in their exile, God's mercy endured. Though they were cast out, a promise lingered, a future hope that one day, humanity would be restored. This marked the beginning of a long journey for humankind, filled with trials, triumphs, and the ever-present possibility of redemption. The creation story sets the foundation for all that follows, illustrating the delicate balance between freedom and obedience, choice and consequence, and the enduring hope that runs through the Bible. After leaving Eden, Adam and Eve began life outside the garden, facing a world that demanded hard work and resilience. They bore children, Cain and Abel, who became the first family in history. Cain, a farmer, and Abel, a shepherd, represented two paths, each with its own way of life and offerings to God. When God favored Abel's offering over Cain's, jealousy and resentment took root in Cain's heart. Rather than accepting God's counsel, Cain allowed his anger to fester, leading to a tragic decision. This story reveals the early stages of humanity's moral struggles and the consequences of allowing negative emotions to govern actions. In an impulsive moment, Cain called Abel into the field and took his life, marking humanity's first murder. God's confrontation with Cain highlights his deep understanding of human emotion. "Where is your brother?" echoes as a call for accountability, emphasizing that we are indeed our brother's keepers. Cain's response, "Am I my brother's keeper?" reflects humanity's tendency to deny responsibility. God's response was swift and decisive, marking Cain and sending him into exile. This mark was both a punishment and a protection, signifying that while actions have consequences, mercy can still be found within judgment. With Cain's exile, the cycle of sin had fully entered the world, expanding from disobedience in Eden to violence and hatred. The descendants of Cain went on to build cities and develop civilizations, but their foundations were often tainted by pride and rebellion. Humanity's separation from God grew, as did the world's wickedness, marking a period of increasing darkness. God watched as human hearts became filled with corruption, leading to a society that ignored justice and compassion. The consequences of Cain's actions rippled through generations, influencing the moral decay that would later prompt God's intervention through the flood. As humanity grew in number, so did its wickedness, filling the world with corruption, violence, and moral decay. God observed this dark transformation with deep sorrow, seeing that humankind had strayed far from the original harmony of Eden. The world had become a place of greed, cruelty, and selfishness, and the divine plan for creation seemed overshadowed by sin. In this state of dismay, God made a decision to cleanse the earth, to wipe away the corruption and offer humanity a fresh beginning. This judgment was not born out of anger but out of a desire to restore purity and righteousness to his creation. Among all people, one man, Noah, stood out for his righteousness and unwavering faith in God. Noah's life was a stark contrast to the wickedness around him. He lived with integrity and a heart inclined toward God. Seeing Noah's faith, God instructed him to build an ark, a massive vessel that would serve as a refuge from the impending flood. The task was monumental, requiring extraordinary strength, patience, and faith. Yet Noah obeyed without hesitation, placing his trust in God's command. This obedience set Noah apart as a symbol of hope and resilience, showcasing the power of faith in the face of adversity. As Noah began constructing the ark, his neighbors scoffed, mocking him for building a massive boat on dry land. They laughed at his faith, unable to comprehend the severity of the judgment that was coming. But Noah persisted, ignoring the ridicule and focusing on his task. With each swing of the hammer and every plank secured, Noah's faith was tested and proven. He worked tirelessly, guided by God's instructions, knowing that the ark was a testament to both God's judgment and his mercy. The construction of the ark became a symbol of salvation amidst a world of disbelief, showing that true faith requires courage and perseverance. When the ark was complete, God commanded Noah to gather his family and bring 2 of every kind of animal into the ark. The scene was one of divine orchestration, with animals of all shapes and sizes filing into the ark, guided by an unseen hand. The ark became a sanctuary, a safe haven where creation could be preserved. As Noah, his family, and the animals entered the ark, the doors were shut, sealing them inside. Outside, the skies darkened, and the first drops of rain began to fall. What started as a drizzle soon became a torrential downpour, unleashing the wrath of the heavens. For 40 days and nights, the rain did not cease, covering mountains and valleys, cities and villages. The floodwaters rose, consuming everything in their path, symbolizing a divine cleansing of the earth. Inside the ark, Noah and his family endured the storm, their faith unshaken despite the terrifying sounds of the deluge. The ark rocked upon the waves, a solitary vessel of life amidst a sea of destruction. In those dark days, Noah's faith was rewarded, as he and his family remained safe, protected by God's covenant. This preservation was a powerful reminder that even in judgment, God's mercy endures. As the waters receded, the ark came to rest on Mount Ararat, and Noah released a dove to search for dry land. After several attempts, the dove returned with an olive leaf, signaling that the earth was ready to sustain life once again. The doors of the ark opened, and Noah's family stepped onto a renewed earth. The world was silent, a blank canvas upon which humanity could begin anew. In gratitude, Noah built an altar and offered sacrifices to God, a gesture of thanksgiving for their survival. This moment marked a new beginning, a chance for humanity to reclaim its original purpose. In response to Noah's offering, God established a covenant, promising never again to destroy the earth by flood. As a sign of this promise, he placed a rainbow in the sky, a vivid reminder of his mercy and faithfulness. The rainbow became a symbol of hope and renewal, representing God's enduring love for creation despite humanity's flaws. Noah's story, from building the ark to witnessing the rainbow, serves as a profound lesson in obedience, faith, and divine mercy. It reminds us that even when humanity fails, there is always the opportunity for redemption, and that God's promises remain steadfast. After the flood, humanity began to repopulate and spread across the earth, led by the descendants of Noah's sons. As they settled in various regions, their unity gave them strength and a shared purpose. This unity, however, soon turned toward prideful ambition, as they sought to build a monumental tower that would reach the heavens. In the plain of Shinar, under the leadership of Nimrod, they embarked on an ambitious project to construct a city with a towering structure, symbolizing their desire for greatness and self-sufficiency. This tower was meant to make a name for themselves and prevent their dispersion across the earth. As the tower rose, so did the people's sense of independence from God. They believed their unity and strength could rival divine power, and the tower became a symbol of human ambition unchecked by humility. The people's desire to elevate themselves above all else was a direct challenge to God's authority. The Tower of Babel became a turning point, marking humanity's first attempt to assert control over their own destiny, separate from God. This prideful ambition illustrates a recurring theme in human history, where the desire for power and recognition often overshadows the humility needed to live in harmony with divine will. Observing the people's intentions, God saw that their unity, while powerful, was leading them down a dangerous path. He understood that if left unchecked, their ambition would lead to further rebellion and self-destruction. In an act of intervention, God decided to confuse their language, creating a multitude of languages that would hinder their communication. This divine action scattered the people, forcing them to abandon the tower and spread across the earth. By confounding their language, God not only disrupted their plans but also restored balance, reminding humanity of its dependence on divine guidance. The Tower of Babel stands as a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and the limits of human ambition. It teaches that unity, while powerful, can become destructive when it leads to self-glorification rather than humility. This event serves as a reminder that true greatness lies not in monumental achievements but in recognizing our dependence on God. The scattering of languages and the abandonment of the tower illustrated the consequences of attempting to live apart from divine wisdom. In essence, Babel symbolizes the beginning of human diversity, a complex tapestry of cultures and languages that would define future civilizations. As the people dispersed, they carried with them different languages, cultures, and traditions. This scattering led to the formation of diverse societies, each with its own unique identity and way of life. While the unity of Babel was lost, humanity gained a rich variety of perspectives and expressions. This diversity, though initially seen as a punishment, became a blessing in disguise, enriching the world with different forms of wisdom, creativity, and resilience. God's intervention at Babel, therefore, was not merely an act of judgment but a way to encourage a broader and more inclusive human experience. The legacy of Babel endures, with language diversity reminding humanity of its shared origins and the limitations of pride. Though languages and cultures differ, the story of Babel is a unifying narrative, teaching that we are all connected by the same Creator. The event serves as a call to humility, urging people to seek unity through understanding and compassion rather than domination. Babel's lessons are timeless, reminding us that while human ambition can lead to remarkable achievements, it must be tempered with humility and reverence for a power greater than ourselves. In modern times, the story of the Tower of Babel continues to resonate, illustrating the complex relationship between human aspiration and divine will. It challenges us to consider our own ambitions and the motives behind them. Are we building towers to honor ourselves, or are we striving to create a world that reflects divine love and wisdom? Babel's message invites reflection, encouraging each generation to seek unity not in grand structures or worldly achievements but in mutual respect, compassion, and a shared commitment to the common good. Following the events at Babel, God chose to reveal himself to a single individual through whom a great nation would arise. This individual was Abraham, a man of humble beginnings yet possessing a heart open to faith and obedience. Living in the land of Ur, Abraham was called by God to leave his homeland and family, embarking on a journey to a place that God promised to show him. This command required incredible faith, as Abraham had no clear destination or timeline. Yet he responded with absolute trust, setting out with his wife, Sarah, and his nephew, Lot. This moment marked the beginning of a profound relationship between God and humanity, with Abraham as the first to experience a personal covenant with the divine. God's covenant with Abraham was both a promise and a test. God assured Abraham that his descendants would become as numerous as the stars in the sky, forming a great nation through which all the world would be blessed. This promise, however, came with a call to faith, as Abraham and Sarah were childless and advanced in age. Despite their circumstances, they believed in God's word, demonstrating a faith that went beyond human understanding. The covenant was not just about lineage, it represented a spiritual legacy, an invitation for all who came after Abraham to live in relationship with God. It was a turning point, setting a foundation for the future people of Israel and establishing principles of faith and obedience. Throughout his journey, Abraham faced numerous trials that tested his trust in God's promises. From conflicts with neighboring tribes to moments of doubt about his descendants, Abraham's path was anything but easy. Yet each challenge served to deepen his faith and solidify his commitment to God. One of the most significant tests came when God commanded Abraham to sacrifice his son, Isaac, the very son who was meant to fulfill the promise of a great nation. In this moment of intense faith, Abraham prepared to obey, demonstrating complete trust in God's wisdom. At the last moment, God provided a ram in place of Isaac, reaffirming his covenant and rewarding Abraham's faith. The covenant between God and Abraham extended beyond personal promises, touching upon the very land that Abraham's descendants would inherit. God promised that his offspring would occupy the land of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. This promise of land was central to the identity of Abraham's lineage, marking them as a people set apart for a divine purpose. The land symbolized both a physical inheritance and a spiritual mission, a place where Abraham's descendants would live according to God's commands and bear witness to his truth. Canaan represented the fulfillment of God's promises, serving as a beacon of hope for generations yet to come. As the years passed, Abraham's faith continued to inspire those around him. His interactions with others demonstrated his deep commitment to justice, hospitality, and reverence for God. One notable example is Abraham's hospitality to 3 visitors, who brought the message that Sarah would bear a son within a year. This encounter was a reminder of God's faithfulness, even when circumstances seemed impossible. Despite Sarah's initial disbelief, God fulfilled his promise, and Isaac was born, carrying forward the covenant that God had established. The birth of Isaac marked the beginning of a new chapter, as the covenant's promise started to manifest in reality. Isaac's arrival solidified Abraham's legacy, ensuring that his lineage would continue and that God's promises would be fulfilled through his descendants. Abraham's journey, from his departure from Ur to the birth of Isaac, exemplifies a life shaped by faith, obedience, and unwavering trust in God's plans. This legacy would become the foundation of Israel's identity, shaping its people and their relationship with God. Abraham's story remains a powerful example of what it means to live in covenant with the divine, with each act of faith reinforcing the timeless truths of trust and surrender. The story of Abraham and God's covenant with him is a cornerstone of faith, reminding future generations of the importance of obedience and trust. His willingness to leave everything behind, to face challenges with courage, and to trust in God's promises has inspired countless believers. The covenant lives on as a symbol of God's unwavering love and his commitment to fulfilling his promises, no matter the obstacles. Abraham's journey is a call to faith, inviting all who follow to walk a path of trust, even when the way forward is uncertain. It's a testament that God's promises are sure, and his plans are greater than human understanding. Generations after Abraham, his descendants had multiplied and settled in Egypt, initially as honored guests under the favor of Joseph. However, over time, a new pharaoh came to power who viewed the Israelites as a threat due to their growing numbers. Under his rule, the Israelites were forced into harsh slavery, their freedom stripped away, and their spirits crushed. The oppression became unbearable, and the Israelites cried out to God for deliverance. In response, God raised up Moses, a Hebrew born under a death sentence but miraculously saved by Pharaoh's own daughter. Moses would become the leader destined to guide his people out of bondage and into a new covenant with God. God's call to Moses came in a dramatic encounter at the burning bush, where God revealed his intention to deliver the Israelites from slavery. Moses, initially reluctant and filled with self-doubt, was empowered by God's assurance that he would be with him every step of the way. Armed with this divine mandate, Moses returned to Egypt and confronted Pharaoh, demanding the release of God's people. Pharaoh's heart, however, was hardened, leading to a fierce battle of wills. In response, God unleashed a series of 10 plagues upon Egypt, each escalating in severity, demonstrating his power and determination to free his people. The final plague, the death of the firstborn, marked a decisive turning point. On the night of Passover, the Israelites marked their doors with lamb's blood as a sign for the angel of death to pass over their homes. This event not only spared the Israelites but also became a lasting symbol of deliverance and divine protection. Pharaoh, devastated by the loss, finally released the Israelites, setting them on a journey toward freedom. This exodus from Egypt was not just a physical departure but a spiritual liberation, symbolizing the beginning of a new relationship between God and His people. The journey through the wilderness was filled with trials that tested the Israelites' faith and trust in God. Despite witnessing miracles like the parting of the Red Sea, the people often faltered, questioning Moses' leadership and God's provision. Yet, God remained faithful, providing manna from heaven, water from a rock, and guidance through a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. These provisions underscored God's commitment to His people, even when they struggled with doubt and fear. Each challenge in the wilderness was a step toward spiritual growth, teaching the Israelites to rely on God's strength. At Mount Sinai, God established a new covenant with the Israelites, giving them the 10 Commandments as a guide for righteous living. These commandments were more than rules. They were principles that would shape the identity of the Israelites as a nation set apart. Through these laws, God revealed His standards for justice, compassion, and holiness. The commandments became the foundation of a moral and ethical framework that would govern the people's relationship with God and each other. This covenant marked a new chapter, as the Israelites embraced their role as God's chosen people, tasked with living according to His ways. Despite the covenant, the Israelites' journey was marked by moments of rebellion and idolatry. When Moses ascended Mount Sinai to receive the commandments, the people grew impatient and crafted a golden calf, reverting to idolatrous practices from their time in Egypt. This act of disobedience was met with severe consequences, yet Moses interceded on behalf of the people, pleading for God's mercy. This cycle of rebellion, repentance, and forgiveness became a recurring theme in the Israelites' journey, illustrating the challenges of faith and the need for continual renewal of commitment to God's covenant. The Exodus story is a powerful narrative of deliverance, faith, and divine mercy. Through Moses, God led the Israelites from slavery to freedom, establishing a covenant that defined their identity and purpose. The journey from Egypt to the Promised Land serves as a metaphor for spiritual transformation, highlighting the importance of trust, obedience, and perseverance. Moses' leadership exemplifies courage and humility, and the story of the Exodus continues to inspire those seeking liberation and a deeper connection with the divine. This journey reminds us that even in times of struggle, God's presence and promises remain steadfast. As we journey through these powerful stories of faith, endurance, and divine purpose, take a moment to ask yourself, what if these timeless truths could impact your life today? Imagine facing life's challenges with the unwavering faith of Abraham, the courage of Moses, or the resilience of Noah. What would change in your perspective, in your goals, and in your heart? This isn't just history, it's a guide for living with purpose, for finding strength when the world feels overwhelming. So, if you're ready to unlock deeper wisdom, to see how these ancient stories can inspire, transform, and empower you, keep watching. This journey is just getting started, and what lies ahead could be the key to unlocking your own path of faith and courage. The Israelites' journey from Egypt to the Promised Land was a prolonged and arduous path, filled with trials that tested their faith, resilience, and obedience to God. Though the distance between Egypt and Canaan could have been covered in weeks, their journey extended over 40 years, symbolizing a period of spiritual refinement and transformation. The wilderness was more than a physical location, it was a crucible of faith, a place where the Israelites were stripped of their old ways and taught to trust in God's provision. Through each challenge, God's guidance was ever present, shaping a people who would eventually be ready to enter the land promised to their ancestors. One of the most significant aspects of their time in the wilderness was the provision of manna, a miraculous food that sustained them daily. This divine sustenance was more than nourishment, it was a symbol of God's unwavering commitment to His people, a reminder that He would provide even in the most desolate circumstances. Every morning, the Israelites gathered just enough manna for the day, learning the importance of relying on God for their daily needs. This routine of dependence on divine provision helped to dismantle their former mindset of slavery, replacing it with a trust that would be essential for their future in the Promised Land. Yet, despite God's constant care, the Israelites often succumbed to doubt and rebellion. They longed for the familiar comforts of Egypt, expressing frustration with the hardships of the wilderness. This wavering faith led to episodes of disobedience, including the incident at Meribah, where the people quarreled with Moses over the lack of water. In response, God instructed Moses to strike a rock, from which water flowed abundantly, quenching their thirst. However, Moses' frustration led him to strike the rock twice, an act that resulted in God's decision to prevent him from entering the Promised Land. This moment underscored the importance of faith and obedience. Even in leadership, throughout their journey, God continued to reveal His laws and expectations, guiding the Israelites through Moses. The laws given to them were not merely rules but a moral and ethical framework that would set them apart as a holy nation. These commandments covered various aspects of life, from worship practices to interpersonal relationships, ensuring that every part of their lives reflected their covenant with God. The wilderness became a classroom where the Israelites learned discipline, humility, and reverence. Each law served as a reminder of their unique calling and the standards they were to uphold in the Promised Land. As they neared the end of their wilderness journey, the Israelites faced one final challenge: to trust in God's promise of victory over the inhabitants of Canaan. Spies were sent to scout the land, returning with reports of formidable giants and fortified cities. Fear spread among the people, and once again, they doubted God's power. Only 2 spies, Joshua and Caleb, urged the people to trust in God's promise, reminding them of His faithfulness. Yet, the majority's lack of faith led to a delay in their entry, with God declaring that the current generation would not enter the Promised Land. This decision reinforced the lesson that faith is essential to receiving God's blessings. Finally, after 40 years, a new generation stood on the brink of the Promised Land, ready to fulfill the covenant. Moses, now old and unable to enter with them, delivered a final address, urging them to remember God's laws and to remain faithful. His words were both a blessing and a warning, emphasizing that their success in Canaan depended on their obedience to God. Joshua, chosen to lead in Moses' place, accepted the mantle of leadership with courage and humility. The Israelites prepared themselves, knowing that their journey through the wilderness had been a period of preparation, shaping them into a people worthy of God's promises. Crossing the Jordan River into Canaan was both a physical and spiritual threshold for the Israelites. The river parted before them, just as the Red Sea had done, affirming that God's presence was with them as they entered this new phase. The Promised Land awaited, filled with both blessings and challenges, a place where they would finally establish themselves as a nation under God's rule. The wilderness had refined them, and now, they were ready to fulfill their destiny. This journey from slavery to freedom, from doubt to faith, remains one of the most powerful testimonies to the transformative power of trusting in God's plan. With Joshua as their leader, the Israelites entered Canaan, the land promised to their ancestors, prepared to establish their new nation. This conquest was not merely a military campaign, it was the fulfillment of God's covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Each battle and every victory was seen as a direct act of divine intervention, illustrating that Israel's strength came from their faith in God. The walls of Jericho, their first major conquest, fell through an unconventional strategy commanded by God, symbolizing that their success would depend on obedience rather than human strength. This victory served as a reminder that God was the ultimate warrior in their battles. The conquest of Canaan was marked by fierce battles, each requiring the Israelites to rely fully on God's guidance. After Jericho, the Israelites faced the city of Ai, where an initial defeat revealed a breach of God's commands. This setback reminded the Israelites of the consequences of disobedience, reinforcing the importance of living according to divine law. Once they corrected their mistake, they returned to Ai and achieved victory. This cycle of obedience, trust, and divine support became the foundation of their approach to conquest, teaching the Israelites that their success in the Promised Land was intertwined with their commitment to God's covenant. Throughout the campaign, Joshua's leadership exemplified courage, faith, and devotion to God. He not only led the Israelites in battle but also continually reminded them of their covenant obligations. One of the most remarkable moments in Joshua's leadership was his prayer for the sun to stand still during a battle against a coalition of enemy kings. This miraculous event allowed the Israelites to secure a complete victory, showcasing the power of faith and the importance of seeking God's intervention. Joshua's prayer demonstrated that even the forces of nature were subject to God's will, solidifying the Israelites' confidence in their divine mission. The conquest of Canaan extended beyond warfare. It involved establishing a just and God-centered society within the new land. After securing major territories, Joshua divided the land among the 12 tribes, ensuring that each had a place to settle and cultivate. This distribution of land marked the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham, granting each tribe a share in the covenant inheritance. However, with this gift came the responsibility to uphold God's laws and to maintain their identity as a people set apart. The land was more than a physical possession, it was a sacred trust, a space where they could live out their calling as God's chosen nation. Despite their victories, the Israelites faced challenges in fully subduing the land, as remnants of the Canaanite population continued to coexist with them. These influences led to periods of compromise and spiritual decline, as the Israelites struggled to remain faithful to God's commands. Joshua warned the people of the dangers of idolatry, urging them to resist the temptations of the surrounding cultures. His final speech to the Israelites was a powerful call to commitment, urging them to choose this day whom you will serve. This choice marked the ongoing struggle to maintain their covenant, a challenge that would define their identity in the Promised Land. As Joshua's life came to an end, the Israelites entered a period of self-governance, guided by the covenant they had made with God. The land of Canaan, now known as Israel, became their home, a place where they could cultivate their faith and grow as a nation. Yet, Joshua's departure left a void in leadership, and without a centralized authority, the Israelites struggled to remain unified in purpose. This period of transition revealed the need for a deeper commitment to God's laws, as they faced both internal and external challenges in maintaining their identity and mission in the land. The conquest of Canaan is a testament to the power of faith and the fulfillment of divine promises. It reminds us that true victory comes not from human strength but from alignment with God's will. The establishment of Israel in the Promised Land was both a gift and a responsibility, requiring the Israelites to live according to their calling. Joshua's legacy of courage, faith, and obedience left an indelible mark on Israel, setting a standard for future generations. The story of Israel's conquest of Canaan remains a powerful example of the importance of faith, leadership, and the enduring impact of divine promises. After Joshua's death, Israel entered a new period of self-governance under leaders known as judges. This era marked a time of fluctuating faith and challenges, as the Israelites struggled to remain true to their covenant without a central authority. The judges were not kings, rather, they were divinely appointed leaders who rose to address crises, often in response to Israel's moral and spiritual decline. This period was characterized by a recurring cycle. The Israelites would fall into idolatry, suffer oppression by neighboring nations, cry out to God, and then be delivered by a judge whom God raised up. Each cycle highlighted the Israelites' tendency to drift from God's ways and the ongoing need for renewal. One of the earliest and most notable judges was Deborah, a prophetess and warrior who led Israel to victory against the Canaanites. Deborah's leadership was unique, as she combined spiritual authority with military strategy, demonstrating that God's calling transcends gender and societal roles. Her courage inspired the Israelites, and her collaboration with Barak, a military leader, underscored the power of unified faith and purpose. The victory over the Canaanites brought peace to the land for a time, showcasing that God's deliverance often came through unexpected channels. Deborah's story remains a testament to the strength of conviction and the impact of faith-filled leadership. Another prominent judge was Gideon, a man initially filled with doubt and insecurity. When God called Gideon to deliver Israel from the Midianites, he hesitated, feeling unqualified and unsure. However, through a series of signs, God assured Gideon of his presence and power. Gideon's victory over the Midianites was miraculous, as he led a small, hand-picked group of 300 men against a vast enemy army. This triumph demonstrated that success in God's eyes is not measured by numbers or might but by obedience and trust. Gideon's story encourages believers to step into their calling, even when they feel inadequate, knowing that God equips those he calls. The period of the Judges also brought forth Samson, a man of extraordinary physical strength but marked by personal weaknesses. Samson's story is complex, illustrating the tension between divine purpose and human flaws. Set apart as a Nazirite from birth, Samson was called to lead Israel against the Philistines, yet he struggled with impulsive behavior and poor choices. Despite his failings, God used Samson's strength to deliver Israel, culminating in his final act of sacrifice, where he defeated the Philistines at the cost of his own life. Samson's life serves as a reminder that God's purposes can prevail even through flawed individuals, though personal choices still carry consequences. The judge Samuel marked the end of the era of judges and the beginning of a new chapter in Israel's history. Samuel was not only a judge but also a prophet and priest, whose integrity and dedication to God made him a trusted leader. During Samuel's time, the Israelites demanded a king, wanting to be like the surrounding nations. This request saddened Samuel, as he saw it as a rejection of God's kingship over Israel. However, God instructed Samuel to anoint Saul as Israel's first king, signaling a shift in governance. Samuel's life was dedicated to serving God and his people, marking the transition from the age of judges to the era of monarchy. Throughout the period of the judges, the Israelites repeatedly fell into the trap of idolatry, influenced by the surrounding cultures. Their reliance on judges for deliverance revealed their ongoing struggle to remain faithful without consistent guidance. Each judge brought temporary peace, but the cycle of sin and repentance continued, underscoring the need for a deeper spiritual foundation. The judges served as temporary solutions to Israel's spiritual problems, yet their stories illustrate the mercy and patience of God, who continually answered his people's cries for help. This era highlighted the importance of personal commitment to God and the dangers of complacency in faith. The era of the judges offers valuable lessons on the consequences of turning away from God and the redemptive power of repentance. It demonstrates that God remains patient with his people, always ready to offer deliverance when they return to him. The judges themselves were flawed, yet God used them to accomplish his purposes, showing that divine strength often shines through human weakness. This period is a powerful reminder of the need for continual renewal in faith, urging believers to seek God wholeheartedly rather than relying solely on leaders for guidance. The cycle of faith and rebellion during the time of the judges laid the groundwork for Israel's future and the eventual establishment of the monarchy. The period of the monarchy began with Israel's desire for a king, a request that reflected their desire to be like other nations. Though God had always been Israel's ultimate king, he granted their wish and instructed Samuel to anoint Saul as the first king. Saul's reign, however, was marred by disobedience and jealousy, leading to his eventual rejection by God. Despite initial success in uniting the tribes and defending Israel, Saul's inability to fully submit to God's will led to his downfall. His life serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and the importance of obedience in leadership. Following Saul's decline, God chose David, a young shepherd with a heart for God, to become Israel's next king. David's rise to power was marked by his faith and humility, beginning with his legendary victory over Goliath. This act of bravery catapulted David into national fame, but it also attracted Saul's jealousy, forcing David into years of exile and hardship. During this time, David demonstrated remarkable patience and integrity, refusing to harm Saul despite multiple opportunities. His loyalty and faith in God's timing set him apart, showing that true leadership requires humility, restraint, and trust in God's plan. When David finally ascended the throne, he united Israel and established Jerusalem as the nation's capital, making it the spiritual and political center of Israel. His reign was characterized by military victories and a deep devotion to God, and he established the foundations of Israel's future prosperity. David's desire to honor God led him to bring the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, symbolizing God's presence among his people. This act solidified Jerusalem's status as a holy city and established a legacy that would endure throughout Israel's history. David's reign marked the beginning of a golden era, filled with blessings and a strong sense of national identity. David's relationship with God was deeply personal, reflected in the Psalms he wrote, which express a wide range of emotions, from worship and gratitude to repentance and longing. His Psalms remain a powerful expression of faith and are treasured as part of the Bible's poetic books. However, despite his devotion, David was not without fault. His affair with Bathsheba and the subsequent cover-up showed his vulnerability to temptation, resulting in severe consequences. This period of David's life highlights the importance of accountability and repentance, as he faced the consequences of his actions yet returned to God with a contrite heart. God's covenant with David promised that his dynasty would endure forever, laying the foundation for the future hope of a Messiah from David's lineage. This covenant was a profound declaration of God's faithfulness, ensuring that David's throne would be established eternally. Despite Israel's future challenges, this promise remained a beacon of hope, symbolizing the enduring nature of God's covenant with his people. David's legacy extended far beyond his reign, as the promise of an eternal kingdom would be fulfilled in Jesus, the descendant of David who would establish a spiritual kingdom without end. Toward the end of his life, David prepared for the construction of a temple, a vision he had cherished but was instructed by God to leave for his son, Solomon. David's preparation for the temple underscored his dedication to honoring God, even if he would not see the project completed. His support for Solomon set the stage for a peaceful transition and the continuation of his legacy. David's final years were spent ensuring that his son would have everything needed to carry out the construction, including detailed plans and abundant resources. This passing of the torch symbolized a continuity of faith and devotion that would define Israel's golden age. David's reign as king of Israel is remembered as a time of faith, struggle, victory, and redemption. His life illustrates the highs and lows of human experience, the importance of repentance, and the power of a heart devoted to God. Despite his flaws, David was called a man after God's own heart, a title that reflects his deep, unwavering love for God. His legacy endures as a symbol of faith and divine promise, reminding us that God's plans prevail even through human imperfection. David's story invites believers to seek God passionately, to lead with humility, and to trust in his promises. As we reach the end of this journey through the Bible's timeless narrative, consider what you've witnessed, a story that transcends history, woven with threads of faith, sacrifice, and divine promise. From creation to conquest, from kings to commoners, each chapter is a testament to God's unwavering commitment to humanity. This story is more than just ancient tales, it's a mirror reflecting our own struggles, triumphs, and hopes. It's a call to live boldly, to trust unshakably, and to embrace the higher purpose that each of us is invited into. Imagine what it would mean to carry this legacy forward, to live with the same resilience and courage that propelled these extraordinary figures through the most challenging moments of their lives. This isn't just their story, it's ours. The journey of Abraham's faith, Moses' courage, David's passion, and the perseverance of countless others invites us to examine our own paths. What mountains are you facing? What battles are calling you to rise up and trust that you're not alone? The God who led the Israelites through the wilderness, who lifted David from the fields to the throne, and who promised a hope beyond human understanding, is the same force of love and purpose that walks beside you today. There is a calling on your life, a destiny waiting for you to take hold of it. This story reminds us that, no matter where we are or what we're facing, the same divine promise, the same power, and the same hope are there, waiting for us to step into. Now, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you stand like David against your giants, trust like Abraham in the face of the unknown, or lead like Moses through times of adversity? There's no moment better than now to align yourself with the purpose embedded in this divine legacy. Embrace it. Let it shape you. Step forward with the confidence that you're part of a greater plan, that your life, just like the lives of those before you, has the power to change the world. Because when we live from a place of faith, our possibilities become limitless. The power of these stories isn't just in the past, it's alive, ready to ignite something extraordinary within you. So, what's next? This legacy of faith has been passed down through generations, and now it's in your hands. You have the opportunity to live with purpose, to pursue your dreams with conviction, and to face life's challenges with an unbreakable spirit. Be bold. Be relentless. Walk in faith, knowing that you're part of a story so much greater than yourself, a story that has reshaped nations, inspired revolutions, and continues to transform lives to this day. Your journey starts here. Take the wisdom, the courage, the resilience that you've uncovered in these pages, and carry it forward. This is your time to become part of this legacy, to live a life that others will look to and say, they walked in faith. So, dare to dream bigger, to love deeper, and to live as if every moment has divine purpose, because it does. The power is within you. This is your story now. Go out there and make it legendary.